being an entrepreneur sounds cool, but the reality of building a business is very, very difficult. Every level that you hit, there's a lot of things that suck that you just won't want to do. What you're capable of is on the other side. I don't feel like it.
And if you're committed to what it is that you're trying to do, nothing is going to stop you from getting there.
Welcome back to another episode of Real Business Owners with myself, Trevor Cowley. This week, we've got two additional people on the podcast. One in Corey McNeil, which some of you guys are familiar with if you've been listening to the more recent episodes. And then we have a returning guest in Scott Rammage. Scott Rammage is a good friend of mine. He was on the podcast a year and a half ago or so. In the last year and a half, he's absolutely blown up his business. He's made massive, big changes in his personal and professional life. He's a Real Business Owners Mastermind member, a valued member at that. I know you guys are going to get a ton of value out of today's episode. And if you're ready to level up, go to realbusinessowners.com. Guys, enjoy today's episode.
People complain about managing people, but really the system should be managing the people. And I think Scott's done an incredible job of building a business that does just that. I think that you're like the poster child, so to speak, for throw the hair back real quick. Hold on. Keep going, Trev. Don't stop there. You know. So what else?
Move it.
Like
Move it.
you know.
More of that one.
But for real, I was talking to somebody that has high anxiety or whatever, right? And I was like, just so that you know, you actually look for things to justify your anxiety. There's certain things that have no issue or bearing on how your life turns out. 100%. It's like, holy cow, we're going to be 5 minutes late. And now all of a sudden, okay, now I can point my anxiety at the fact that we're 5 minutes late and I can justify the way that I feel inside my body. It's because of that thing.
Remember that, like, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago, I was like, dude, I had one of the biggest epiphanies of my whole life. I'm driving down the road, realizing I've got anxiety. And I'm like looking, I'm like, okay, what did I leave this stove on? Like, I'm literally going through the script in my brain and I'm like, dude, you're looking for the threat. So then this thought came into my mind as I'm like, wait a minute. I think I'm actually addicted to it. Mm-hmm. So the chemical cocktail in my brain.
You're home. Yeah.
Yeah. The chemical cocktail in my brain, it's the same as like a heroin addict, alcoholic. It's used to this mixture. So when I don't have it actually showing itself in my life, my brain is going through withdrawals. It wants to feel the presence of those chemicals. So it starts fabricating these thoughts to create the emotion that will trigger the chemical release.
You're curated in chaos.
You feel a certain way in your body and you look for ways to justify the
validate
feel. Yeah, you then you go through this validation process. Somebody posted in the group, I think it was yesterday or the day before, how do you stay consistent when things get hard? What would your response to somebody like that be?
It always comes back to systems and processes for me. When things get crazy, what is my system to bring myself back into place? Because I don't just do systems and processes for business. I do them for myself.
So
I'm curious about your childhood, man. Like, was it like your military brat? Like,
no,
you have her in the house?
No. A little bit of chaos. Mom being bipolar.
I think that maybe that's why you like structure,
security of the
right. And that's the same same with me is I like to control as much as I can possibly control because I didn't have any control. And it was always,
like
is there lights going to be on? Is there going to be food? Is there going to be that? Like there was always all this stuff. So that's why I'm a very routine person because it's very predictable because my childhood, there was a lot of unpredictability, right?
Yeah. I've really come to this idea, and this wasn't through like therapy or anything. This is just like self-reflection. When I have a need to control, it only ever comes out of a place of fear, ever. Like if I feel like I need to control my employees, if I feel like I have to control my kids or whatever, I'm like, why? Well, because if you don't, then this is what's going to happen. And it always 100% of the time, it's if you go far enough in, you'll see that it's fear-based. So that's why this whole concept of like just learning to try to be at peace. And I've been doing a lot. I had today when I started getting those little thoughts again today, I'm like, okay, dude, is there like, you're addicted to the chemicals in your brain. That's it. So as soon as I call myself out on it, it literally goes away.
To all the entrepreneurs who are on a journey, what keeps you pushing through the barriers on the path to success? Consistency is definitely key, but what has made the biggest difference in staying consistent and pushing through the tough moments to get where you want to be? And I replied, what keeps me going is the reminder to myself that any other choice is a bitch move. That what I'm doing is easier than those who traveled across the U.S. on horseback to settle the West. That men used to work 18-hour days in 120-degree temps in steel mills when America was being built. That somebody's dying in the hospital right now that would do anything to have the problem of needing to be consistent.
So I don't do that kind of dialogue in my head.
That's how I do it, dude.
Very different. And it's good because it works for you.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think we do have to develop our own frameworks to overcome this. So my framework, and this will not surprise any of you, is moving away from me being the fix. So we were talking about this fear and control. So 3 years ago, I'm walking every morning. You guys know I walk.
Yeah,
I go
yeah.
either, and it's 45 minutes, and it's my time with God. I don't get distracted by technology. I actually have a system in place where I pull my phone out and record things because that's when my brain is just like. So I was in this period when I could not break through in my business. I was in a business partnership that wasn't awesome. I was stressing.
This is years ago.
This is 3 years ago.
Okay.
I'm walking, and every morning I'm just like overwhelmed. Overwhelm is a minimal way of explaining.
With like anxiety, just
and
stress,
fear.
Yeah.
How am I ever going to get
Where I'm trying to go.
where I need to go? How am I ever going to be able to save any money? How am I ever going to exceed this $10,000 a month?
You couldn't see outside of the weeds that you were in, right?
Absolutely. So, for me, it was prayer, and I was walking, and it hit me like across the face. It was one of those moments.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a few of these in my life, and I remember exactly, guys. This is the weird thing. I fell to my knees in the pure dark I know the exact spot in this park.
Mm.
And it was, for me, it was a God moment. And it was, you are trying to control. And as soon as you release that control, the second you release that control, your fear will be gone and you will be fine. At that point, I stopped asking how, because I'd been asking God, how do I get rid of this horrible, deep gut thing?
Mm-hmm.
And everything that happened in my business that wasn't positive, it was like a major gut punch. And it was the end of the earth. We're going down. I'm not going to make bills this month. And it was complete freedom from that moment on. Complete. And
Even when you were dealing with some of the same stuff,
crazy. Things went way bad.
So transition from how to what?
It did. And so it switched a thing in my brain that took that response of fear and going worst case scenario to, wow, this is really not that bad. And so I don't know all the steps because it just started to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to, when something negative would come my way, I'm like, you know what? This is fine. This is all part of the thing. And it's really where I really surrendered. But I also decided that I don't have all the best. I'd always been the fixer. I'm always the guy that learns everything and does everything. And I have a VA company at this point. And I know how to leverage other people. But what a lot of people don't know is I was still addicted to work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would hire these VAs, and I had this VA company. I would still be grinding. And I think a lot of business owners are going to relate to this.
Oh, yeah.
I still was the answer to every problem. I still was the guy that decided on the fix. I was still the guy that implemented the new systems and figured them out and then told them how to do it. And it was a switch from, wait a minute, no, I just need to surrender that and say, hey, what do we got here? What do you guys think we should do? And I started to do the who, not how. And I really started to understand the power of what leveraging other people was. I thought I had it figured out.
Yeah.
And I still, we have a lot of clients right now, and they're like still stuck in their own chaos. They still do.
They're addicted to the chemical.
They are. It's exactly right back to that
chemical response. It goes full circle.
And they're so proud of themselves because they're leveraging, and it's so helpful. I'm like, yeah, but what have you added to your plate by taking this away? And you'll find that they always add more back to their plate. That was me. So 80, 100-hour weeks. That's just my thing.
Yeah.
And so getting rid of fear and getting rid of control then opened my mind to a better way of doing things. And lo and behold, things started to get better and be done much better than I was doing them.
Well,
because I didn't have to.
Well, if you're doing them in a certain state of fear and frustration, and you're really not doing it to the full potential that it has the ability to be done. versus leveraging somebody else that's their energy and their focus, but they're approaching it probably differently. And let's be real, nobody's the fucking best at everything. I've talked to so many, I guess, newer business owners or let's say 6-figure entrepreneurs. And it's like, dude, you're not the fucking best person to do admin tasks. You're not the best fucking person to do scheduling. You're not the best person to do invoicing. You're not the best bookkeeper in the whole world. You're not the best person to actually go do the sales calls. You're not the best person to do the fulfillment. Like, you can't possibly be the best at everything. And the fact is, you might be best at the fulfillment because you're in the trades, but you're terrible at the fucking front end shit, the sales, the marketing, and you're terrible at the back end shit, which is the admin and the invoicing and the follow-ups or whatever it is. And it's like, you're trying to do it fucking all, but yet you're waiting for some miracle to happen within your business to where all of a sudden you have enough money to then get the support that you need to support you so that you could start delegating, but yet you can't handle anymore. So therefore there's not going to be any more money. It's this weird fucking, it's like a merry-go-round where you feel good that you're in motion, but you're fucking going nowhere. You're moving, but you're not making progress.
You're scared to stay where you're at because you want to go somewhere else.
It's like, get off the fucking merry-go-round and actually start heading in a direction instead of just doing fucking a lot of nothingness.
Well, I think you just nailed the answer to that question that guy was asking. This is kind of what came to my mind, is you're probably doing a lot, but not doing the right things.
A lot of
that
nothing.
Stress comes in and you're like, oh, I can't do it anymore because you've just been running around like a chicken with your head cut off, right? You get rid of fear and you let go of control. What's on the other side of the control is you have to have trust. And so there is a point where you have to trust in the process, trust in others. And then you start this really nice balance, if you get it right, of, oh, when I trust somebody, the right person, and things start to get better, then it's like, oh, I can relax on that. And then your brain opens up. It's like closing a tab on your computer. We talked to this over and over again.
Yeah.
And you just get better. And then you realize, oh, when I relinquish this, it actually got better. And I actually got better over here. And you keep doing that and you keep doing that until you are in your zone of genius. And I was talking to Michael, a member of the Inner Circle, and he has been doing a really good job. He goes into chaos during busy season, right? And he's like, I have this gal, she's going to be doing this sales thing. And we talked through it. And he's like, I'm nervous about this. And it was so simple. I'm like, dude, so what's the bottleneck for you? Sales. You got another salesperson. Do you need another salesperson? He's like, yes. I'm like, okay, you have to pull the tension on your slingshot a little tighter for a little bit more while you train both of them. Get her, you train a new guy. She supports the training of that new guy. Now you've got that taken care of. And now the rock is flying and all that tension's gone and you can focus on the things you want to focus on. It was like this big aha moment. Oh, okay. I'm like, then what are you doing in your business? Like, not a lot. Oh, like, that's what we want, right?
Yeah. Anything should be somewhat optional, you know?
Right.
Well, dude, you brought up a good point. You said something about trust, right? And that's really a big issue is I can't trust anybody to do it as well as I do it, you know, and you know, you're building a prison around yourself by having that mentality. And, you know, I'm guilty of it. And I think anybody that's ever been an entrepreneur is guilty of it, right? It's just, where are you at in the process, right? How big or small is you can break out at any time. It's just going to have to, it's going to require you to obviously do some things differently. Now, here's the biggest issue that I see, and this is from my perspective, because this is an issue that I had when thinking about virtual assistants and VAs and outsourcing and basically what you do, right? And we've talked about this. My testimonial that I made for you was exactly about this. It's people come into it with a bias of, well, my experience when I call customer support companies for large organizations is they don't understand me. I don't understand them. I feel like that the experience is absolutely terrible. So therefore, I take this perspective that I have of dealing with outsourced customer support reps for large companies. And since I end up being in a frustrated state as a customer, I'm now projecting that if I go out there and I hire a VA for my company, that my customers are going to experience that, or this is what I'm going to experience as somebody managing a virtual assistant. And this was a bias that I had for many years. Virtual assistants, I mean, that's nothing new. It's obviously gaining a lot more momentum as time goes on. Why? Because like our dollar doesn't go as far as it used to. Like that's just the truth in the United States, right? Inflation and this, like home prices, and we have to pay American wages, which are higher and higher and higher. I mean, it's fucking $18 to $20 an hour to work at Del Taco now, So it's like Del Taco. No wonder why they want robotics, so that they could save money. And guess what? The robots show up on time when they turn the lights on. They're there, and so that's going back to the trust issue. Is there's a lot of people that are worried about, one, relinquishing what it is that they do, but secondly, relinquishing it to a virtual assistant. In their mind, they've got that bias of what the experience is going to be. And it's completely opposite of that. Working with you and your team, and, it's like they have a team of people overseeing the virtual. It's not like they just give you a virtual assistant and they're like, hey, do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had this experience in December, just to your point. I had to call American Express.
Yeah.
And I'm on the phone and it's I get the call center background noise. I'm like, oh man.
Here we go.
And I'm on the phone. It's a Filipina gal. I'm like, what? Can you repeat? What?
Yeah.
Please repeat. Say that again.
Yep.
I get off the phone and I look at Kim. I'm like, their Filipinos are not the same as my Filipinos.
No.
I'm like, I know where they're sourcing them from, and I know what they're paying, which is about an eighth of what we pay.
Yeah.
And so it's ruined it, right? But so then you had to go out of your comfort zone to understand that there's actually something great on the other side. This isn't just for VAs. It's for anything.
Anything, yeah.
Like, this guy that asks the question, I imagine those things that he needs to do are outside of his comfort zone. Chaos might be inside of his comfort zone. It is like the equation is so easy, you guys. Why are we addicted to chaos? Because when we typically start a business, we're solopreneurs or we're in a partnership. Who does all of the work?
Yeah,
we do. We're the customer service, we're the sales, we're the operations, we're building out the systems and processes, we're trying new software, we're everything. We take every complaint, we onboard everybody, and then we slowly give these things up, but we don't give them up to the right people. It doesn't go as good as it should because we're not using data. I'm going to hire my sister. She's a really nice person. She's going to do this thing. This is the same thing over and over again. And you lose trust in anybody else. And so then just doing stuff you think is the hard thing to do. But then when you're in your business and there's something new or that is outside of like your normal everyday chaos, you shirk back and you're like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to go do something else. And it's not because they're disciplined.
Yeah.
It's actually a lack of discipline.
Yeah.
It's avoidance. So, I mean, that's deep and there's a lot more to it than that. But I've seen this with entrepreneurs is they never break out of their solopreneur mindset.
You're like, listen, I'm only barely getting by. Like I'm covering my mortgage, maybe my office space. Like I'm doing my best to tread water and I don't dare charge more because this is what the market's going to bear. But the reality is, even if you can increase the margin by 5 or 10%, if you just start patting them a little bit and earmarking that additional revenue as the means to escaping the trap, that's how I did it. I read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week way back in whatever it was, like 2009. That's the first time that I'd ever heard about virtual assistants. And I was just in a place where I'm like, I really can't afford to do this, but I'll start to add a little bit in until I could. Once I had the first kind of experience and it freed up my workload. And then I'm like, okay, cool. If I could apply this maybe 5 or 6 times, I can grow this. And within a really quick period of time, I didn't like retire, but I kind of virtually retired. I just stopped working.
The interesting thing about this and what really came full circle is in my first VA agency, which I still own, my business partner wanted me to only work a couple hours a day. He was just, I understand the reasoning now. It was selfish because he wasn't working. So he didn't want me working. And so I tried that, the 4-hour work week. I tried it. Absolutely miserable.
It took a little while.
miserable.
It took a little while. In fact, honestly, you and I have had this conversation. That's actually what led to like drinking and just getting a little like
Dude, your mind just starts wandering. And I believe if your mind is not directed or pointed at something, that it turns on itself and eats at itself. And that's where depression and self-loathing and
No finish line.
there's, it's just like, ugh. So,
well, there wasn't I didn't feel good about, well, first of all, I didn't feel good about any of it, but I found that I started kind of like twisting knobs and pushing buttons out of boredom almost, right? So my team literally just came back as like, we've got this.
Yeah.
Like, we'll let you know when we need any help on it. And I did realize that I was like, oh, I'm actually breaking more things than, you know what I mean? So, but rather than going out as like, oh, cool, this is an opportunity to grow, I was actually more at a spot of like, well, my bills are met and we're good and we're comfortable. And I'm still way better than I was 2 years ago. So I'm just in a comfort phase. And that's what just
complacency.
I think
killed it. It could just, I stayed in that place for a while.
Yeah.
Not too long.
I try to tell people, like, it's not about, you got to be really careful with those stories about 4-hour work week or your best day. People think that sitting on the beach or just traveling and doing nothing is the best day. I'm like, well, day after day, that becomes pretty monotonous. I was mountain biking. All I wanted to mountain bike. I'm like, I'm kind of losing it for this because I can go any day, anytime I wanted to.
Yeah.
And it lost its luster. I do try and really tell everybody, like, look, it's not about putting your business on autopilot because there is no such thing. Somebody's got to be guiding the ship.
Yeah.
But it's about, what do you actually love doing? And I've said this many times. If you were a tradesman and you built a business around this trade and you long to be back in the field, what's wrong with doing 4-hour days in the field and letting all the rest of the operations and sales and everything be with people that are better at it? Now you're falling back in love with your business. And you might also, actually be able to promote your business more because then you got the other hours of the day to be the face of your company. So it's all about like finding that place where you actually find joy, where you want to go to work because what you're doing is really fun. And, I've been on this quest to do that and I'm finding it. Like I get to fly here and do this, right? I'm like, let's
jam on a podcast, and hang out with cool people.
And yesterday I was
put myself in the cool person category.
Yeah, I put you in there. Yesterday I got to, talk with other business owners and I left the day full of energy.
Yeah. That's because you're not resenting anything because you get to do those things.
Right.
And when you're a new business owner, you don't feel like that you get to do the admin stuff and you get to do the invoicing and get to do the bookkeeping and get to do the follow-ups and that feels like a monotonous task that is just draining you. But there's a couple things that you do within your organization that feeds your energy, right? And so the idea is what you're saying is delegate what stills your soul and try to double down on the things that add to your soul and give you life. You made a point saying, well, I can't really afford to do it. That's a fucking scary place for people to be because it's like, no, there's the other side. You can't afford not to do something if you can't afford to do something because the way that you're doing it isn't working. And you have the fucking evidence to say, hey, if I keep doing it the way that I'm doing it, this is the result that I'm going to experience.
Dude, do you know how many people I talk to on the phone that this is the problem? The crazy part is
merry-go-round.
I know it is, but here's the typical cycle. Most people are like, okay, I do X for a living. Swing a hammer, bake a cake, whatever it is. And I see my boss is killing it. What's he do? Talk on his phone all day or whatever. I can do that. I can do that thing. I'm going to go start it and do it. And then the problem is they hop out and they start.
Yeah.
Instead of actually formulating a plan.
Yeah.
Starting with the idea of like, hey, what's sustainable? Like I'm going to save my way to it. I'm going to get a loan, whatever.
Right.
And that's really what it comes down to. Now, some things, if you get into somebody that's got a 70% loan, a business loan, right, which is a real thing.
Think about it, though. Somebody needed a loan for their business because something wasn't right and it wasn't spitting out enough money
It wasn't spinning off enough money, so therefore they needed money.
They're going to
And then they go get a hard money loan at 50, 60% that's going to fix the problem of not having money. But now you have an additional expense on top of not having money. You obviously have shown, again, with the data, that you're really not good at what you're doing yet in terms of either managing your money or operating your business. Therefore, that's why it didn't generate the revenue. And so then you get deeper and deeper into this problem. And then
Matt made a really good point. Matt Atkins made a really good point. Like, we are huge amount of materials in between and labor in between. Then you get the big check. There's always this.
those are reasonable, though. Those are
scary place to be. And that's where you do have to
some
have
normal interest rates, though.
But you get people who are like, if I throw money at this problem, it'll be fixed.
Yeah.
And no, you have a money problem because you don't know how to fix it in the first place.
People are struggling. There's pain points that all business owners have, and yet you come in with a solution to help relieve some of the pain that business owners go through. So therefore you're winning because of it, right? So it's all, justified and very deserving. But that's not how it always was. So I think it's super important. I also I want to give you your flowers because you're crushing it, and your company does an incredible job for many people. We have 130 something members total between Inner Circle and the upper level, the OGs. Scott's one of the OGs. And there's probably 20 or 30 RBO members. And it's the same fucking song and dance every time. Praise, awesome. It's bringing relief to them as a struggling, stressed business owner, which is what we all want as business owners. Some of us have our own self-imposed misery. We say that we want to relieve ourselves, but yet we do nothing to change the fact that we keep doing the same thing that gave us the struggle that we say that we don't want, right? Mm-hmm. You're in a great position financially. Your company's growing, it's expanding, it's solving problems. But the thing that really, I believe, is more important to shine light on is the conversation and the point that you were at when you were at a dinner table with your family, when you felt like that your life was at a low, in shambles, almost wondering what the heck am I doing? Am I a failure? Because how many people that are listening to this podcast could be like, dude, is this a forever prison sentence? This current struggle that I'm dealing with right now? And I'm sure that you were feeling some of those, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? If you will, share that story and your son and kind of what he did, because I think it's important for people to, we're sitting here kind of on a pulpit preaching and, hey, yes, this, and it sounds all good. But there's backstories to,
the overnight success and
there's backstories to the wisdom, I guess. There's experience that's been had, and experience and wisdom doesn't come from, being high on the hog. Experience and wisdom comes from being at a very low place and having to work your way up and work your way out of it and lift yourself up out of a dark, dark place. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's more people that are listening to this that are at a dark, dark place trying to pick themselves up and show up for another day than there are people living high on the hog. Because if they're living high on the hog, they're probably not listening to me just for the fun of it because I have a beautiful voice. They're listening to try to find that thing. They're trying to find the motivation, the inspiration, a piece of information, something that helps them continue to go down the path that they're on, because even themselves, they're doubting, should I? Right? And so it's we utilize external things sometimes just to keep us going. And I think part of what we do here with Real Business Owners in the podcast is that for some people. And so I want to highlight not necessarily all the wins, but I also want to shine a flashlight in that dark place too.
I've never heard this one.
These are really powerful, and I have multiple stories because I started entrepreneurship in 2004. Yeah. So opened my first business. I was teaching full time. That was a dinner table. So I had two dinner table, what I call Mack truck experiences, getting hit by a Mack truck, right? Yeah. The first one was 5 years into owning this bike shop, which did $500,000 a year in retail, which is decent, especially in the small town we're in. Yeah. And I was a full-time educator. And I came home one night and it was pitch black. And I realized I left when it was pitch black, 4:30 in the morning, and came back at 9 at night. I had 2 kids at that point and never saw them. And I know that there's people listening right now like, oh crap,
Yeah, I've been there.
that's my life.
Yeah.
All in the name of supporting my family.
Yeah.
And so I had that moment, and I closed that business down. I actually had a plan to sell it, and went into over $250,000 in debt. At that time, for me, it was massive. Overnight, to choose to sell that to get my life back and get my priorities back in line, but I didn't know how to have priorities. And so I was then stuck in a place where I was really depressed because I got rid of the thing that really gave me fuel and went back to the thing that sucked me dry, which was education, being an educator due to somebody's advice. So we've got 20 years of this, and every business I've ever propped up's made money. They ended out of me needing to change my life, my priorities. And so I kept doing the same thing. 3 years ago, we're sitting at dinner, and I had just bought out my partner in this other business and lost 70% of our recurring revenue in that business, like within weeks. It's a situation out of my control. And so I'm sitting there at the dinner table. I had just bought this business that I built with this business partner using credit card and transferring it to the no interest, doing the game. And this happens, and I'm sitting at the dinner table, and I told my family, I said, hey, we have to have a talk. My oldest at that time was 16. So it was 4 years ago. He's 20 now. And I said, hey guys, like, I know I've had a lot of time to spend with you up until just recently. I need you to understand something. I'm going into a season where I'm going to have to work many, many hours. We had some stuff happen. The business isn't making enough money to even pay us right now. I'm barely holding on to payroll for my people. And so we're going to have to cut back on everything. I'm going to be working long hours, and I just want you to understand where we're at. So lesson number 1 here is have clarity and be very upfront and honest with your family. From day one, talk through your failures with them. Explain why your failures happen and how you're correcting them and what you've done. It's so incredibly important because right now my boys can have a failure, but they have that critical thinking skill because they're like, I saw my dad do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So my son, my 16, 17-year-old Bryson, at that time, he said, Dad, I don't know that I know anybody that works as hard as you. I just see you struggle, and it just doesn't seem fair because the way you work, we should never have any money problems. And so I'm just tired of watching the struggle. And I didn't have anything to say. I was just dumbfounded. And a lot of people thought, when I tell them that story, they're like, oh, what a dagger in the heart. Like, oh no. That was like a big freaking needle of adrenaline right in the heart.
It's like, let's get this.
And
let's build.
And my brain, you're right. I didn't say this to him. We had dinner and we talked about what this looked like. And I didn't say anything to him. But in my brain, I'm like, now I need to be the man that does the thing that the kids think should be equating to the result that I should have. And by getting rid of that fear and control that I had, and also having this moment at dinner, those two together was a switch to where every single person I confront every single day is an opportunity to solve a problem. I have a lot of skills over my years. So there's a saying, I want to read this really quick because I don't want to let it go. Because I felt bad at being a jack of all trades. I paid a guy too much to make a sign for my door when I first opened my business. So I bought a sign maker, a plotter, and I began making signs for people and made more money making signs than I paid for my equipment. Like this is me.
Yeah.
Everything I will learn everything I have to do. And I've always been ashamed of being a jack of all trades because it's like a jack of all trades is a master of none.
Yeah.
That's only part of the saying.
I've heard that.
And the whole saying is so much more powerful. So for every listener out here who has to do everything, first of all, I want to empower you to know that the real saying is a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes is better than a master of one. And so in your season of grind or whatever it is,
Mhm.
embrace that as an opportunity to understand that you are not just the master of one, you're mastering a lot of things, but then there's a time when you have to funnel it in into other people because you can lead better that way. Yet the other thing was, I'm going to stop pushing on what the result I want. I'm going to stop trying to create those results I want. I'm going to listen to what's going on around me and find problems. I went from, this is the solution I have, to what are the problems people are having? My mind completely shifted. So the next sales call that came on was a referral, and she wasn't a good fit for my business. Could I have sold her on the business? Absolutely. But in my heart, I'm like, this is not a good fit. And so I said, I know what I'm going to do. You're not a good fit for my business. Have you ever told somebody that?
Oh, yeah.
They fight. They're like, well, no, I think I am.
They start selling themselves.
I said, no, you are not a good fit. And here's why. You need somebody for you. You don't need my team. You need a person. What was I doing? I wasn't selling what I had. I was solving people's problems right where they were at. And with that model, I was able to solve all sorts of problems. Instead of saying, oh, you're really busy, so let's get you a social media manager and a social media team because that'll take something off your plate. Well, maybe they love doing social media. Instead, I'm like, what is the thing that you don't do well that you need done better? What are your sticking points? Okay, let's solve that problem. So many little pieces came together. God really pulled some pieces together. He gave me freedom from trying to force everything. He gave me vision to see that I have the tools to help people solve problems.
You can help way more people,
A lot more.
than just doing that one thing that you were doing.
Exactly. And now I have this shot of adrenaline. I have a bigger purpose than I'd ever had in my life. It wasn't about earning money, because when your purpose is about earning money, everyone sees it. They see right into you. They're like, that guy just wants to earn money. When your purpose becomes bigger than that, there's no bigger purpose than, I want my boys to be successful. They've expressed interest in being entrepreneurs and owning their own businesses. The only way I can get them there faster is by figuring it out.
I've literally stared at a blank stare at the wall, sitting at my desk, wondering, what the fuck? Where you're literally questioning every life choice that you've ever made that brought you to this point. Should I have done this? Should I have gone to college? Should I have, went to work for somebody? Should I have stayed in sales? Should I have, it's like you go through this should I have experience, and it's should I have done anything other than the very thing that you're doing that's right in front of you. And I believe that every entrepreneur is going to experience that blank stare off into abyss where they're literally inside their mind wondering what the hell. And that's why I thought that was important for you to share, right?
If you have pain or failure, you need to assign purpose to that pain. And so when I look back on the 20 years of entrepreneurship, the mistakes I made, and I look at every business and the mistakes I made, man, that bike shop could have just soared if I put all my energy in that and also delegated and done a better job. Oh my gosh, my gym, it did amazing if I hadn't wanted to move and sell it, and I could have been here. And wow, this e-commerce business that I grew and did really well with really fast, all of these mistakes, the mistakes of not spending time with my wife or my boys when they were young. Do you know how much that hurts? The first 5 years of their life, I was working 80, 90 hours a week. The weekends, instead of hanging out with my family, I went on bike rides with all my clients. None of that was something that I would take back. All the stupid stuff I did, I would not take a second of it back. All the bad decisions, the bad money, the pain, the horrible clients, the charge, giving people their money back because we fell short. Every single thing that I failed in and struggled through was the way that I got to where I am now.
You paid the dummy tax.
I paid the dummy tax now.
But
for me, I want to scream it from the mountaintops because I want to help people reduce their dummy tax. I think everybody needs to understand you have pain right now. Mm-hmm. You do. There's no way to be in a business and not have pain.
Yeah.
There's no way to be in a business and not have made stupid mistakes. Use those, look at those, and fail forward, like John Maxwell said for years.
Yeah.
Just freaking fail forward.
There's also the issue of having to sometimes increase pain for the release of some pain. It's like we get used to the pain that we're currently bearing, and then we never make any progress because we keep that same level of pain because we don't want to increase the pain level. In other words, we don't want to spend more money. We don't want to have to actually go through the process of hiring somebody and then training somebody. And then there's so many of these things that happen, and most of it is discomfort for a period of time to create a different level of ease, right? There's always an exchange that needs to be made. And so if you're really looking for a different level of ease or comfort in your business, there's always going to be pain. There's always going to be some struggle, but not all pain and struggle has to remain the same. Sometimes we have to, increase it just a little bit so that we have the ability to relieve ourselves from that pain of our business or that issue or that problem, right?
We've all had the situation where you got to go to the bathroom bad, and you're out on the road and you pull in and so just, I want you guys to visualize this.
That you're talking about the pain right before you just
you have to go.
Yeah.
If you don't go in there, things are going to go awry really fast.
Yeah.
You open the door and you are knocked out by the smell. Like you were like, oh, you're like, but I can't there. And so you go in and this guy's coming out. He's like, and he just looks happy as can be. He's washing his hands. And you're like, how did that guy sitting here for so long? You go do your thing and you come out and you start washing your hands, and another guy comes in and he's hit. And you're like, I don't even smell it anymore. I would say that most people are sitting on the shitter, not even noticing the smell. We are okay in our own chaos because it's more comfortable than stepping into something new. But so one, there's a good chance you're sitting in your chaos because you're in comfort in that chaos.
Yeah.
A lot of business owners, we talk about addicted to chaos.
Yeah.
But
it goes beyond just business, like your marriage, your life. People are just this chaos. You can't, yeah.
Yeah. And so one, you got to evaluate, am I just comfortable here because it's what I know? This is the smell I know.
Mm-hmm.
Or am I going to go purposely into a season of a lot of struggle and pulling that tension, working many hours, whatever it is, so that I can slingshot myself
out.
And that's very uncomfortable. This guy that's talking about doing this stuff, the stuff he's got to do, the post yesterday is probably very painful. It's probably scary sitting outside of that comfort zone of just the chaos he's in.
I made an Instagram story today about being built different, but I was out doing my thing, whatever, getting my miles in this morning, and it was just fucking brutal. There's no other, I don't know how else to put it. That's just what I was. And I'm just out there just doing it, right? And it hit me. And it's like, the comments of people saying, yeah, you're just built different. They're seeing an end result of like, here's the screenshot of me doing the 10 miles or 11 miles or whatever, day in and day out. So they see, oh man, you're just built different. And what they're doing is they're disrespecting what I had to go through out there, what I had to go through when I was out there today. They're taking that away from me by saying that you're built different. Nobody's built different. Like, we're all human beings. I used to have that mindset when I would look at people and be like, man, Scott's just built different, dude. Like, he's got this business, he's doing it right. Like, but then we just heard the whole backstory. If you say that he's built different, you're disrespecting the process that he had to go through to become who he is. There's certain humans that are willing to exchange more than other human beings in order to receive a specific result. And then people label that type of person as built different. Man, they could do it, but I can't. They're not saying, man, I wonder what struggle or pain or discomfort that he's had to go through in order to receive that result. They don't go past just the result, and they'll label it as something and then move on. In other words, he's built different. There's no way that could be me. But I'm telling you right now that there is a process, and there's things that you could do that will require some discomfort. Like getting on the fucking phone with some of these youngsters about the inner circle. And it's like, I don't know, a couple $100 a month, I don't know. And it's like, dude, if you can't be in an environment of fucking a group of 100+ people and around guys like Scott and some of the other OGs and even some of the inner circle members in a year's time frame and recoup $5,000 fucking dollars, you probably don't deserve to even be an entrepreneur if you're going to be around that caliber of people and not receive that type of return back, if that makes sense.
Dude, there's a part where I'm not necessarily saying I'm feeling jaded, but my perspective is definitely shifting in the sense that I'm like, you don't understand. You say you're thirsty, there's the well.
Yeah.
Don't bitch at me that you're dying of thirst. Don't say you want it.
That's the whole
And
point.
then complain about being thirsty. And then tell everybody how hard you're sweating and like.
And what you're doing is you're saying, I just want the result and I don't want the process. I don't want to make the money investment. I don't want to make the time investment. I don't want to make the struggle investment. I don't want to go through that level of discomfort. Like if you're going to be the top 1% in income, don't you think it's going to be pretty fucking hard?
Harder than 99% of other people's lives?
99% of other people can't do it. Like, it's really hard to find good employees. Yeah, you might have to fucking hire 10 to find the one. So is it hard? Yes. So is becoming a millionaire. So just because it's hard doesn't mean that you shouldn't pursue it. That's also a problem, right? Like finding the right person. Oh, I've tried an assistant and it didn't really work out and I had to take back over. It's like, cool. You probably dated more than one person before you married your spouse. There's a process of elimination. What I love about what you do is that you do the process of elimination prior, right? And so there's things that get simplified.
The bottom line is you have a finish line where you want to go. Just stop making it as painful as possible, as long as possible. If you're going to endure the pain, to be like, hey, I'm going to do it as quickly as possible. I'm going to pull the band off. I'm going to hire some people. I'm going to make the investment and I'm just going to eat shit for a few minutes. And then for the rest of my life, I get this benefit of it.
Well, it's just getting out of your own way. You said with where you are to trying to get the result. The only thing that's in the way of the result is usually the individual.
Everything I've done that has been uncomfortable, the amount of money I pay that's uncomfortable for me is where I really, really start to get traction.
Yeah, momentum, traction. I mean, if it's uncomfortable, you're going to probably move a little differently.
Right.
You're going to value it. You're going to move at a different speed. You're going to actually take action. I was messaging with somebody today and I was like, hey man, he's in SoCal. I said, dude, you would be a great fit for the group. He's like, man, I just need to hire a couple people. He does like equipment stuff or whatever. And then, delegate some of the stuff and then I'll be ready. And I said, if you were a part of a group, you would be doing that way sooner.
Yeah.
Like you say that's what you need to do, but the version of you that says that is probably the same guy that said it 6 months ago and the same guy that said it 12 months ago that didn't do it.
Stuck in their own trap.
It goes back to the chaos and the trap and I'm gonna. And what you end up doing is, again, being insert merry-go-round. You're making motion, but you're going nowhere.
If you're listening to this podcast and you haven't done something with RBO, I would highly recommend looking into it. And I would highly recommend you asking yourself, what is my objection? And is that an excuse or is it a reason?
Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please rate and review the show, guys. The reviews have slowed down a little bit, if I'm being frank with you. And so if you're getting value out of the show, and even if you've left a previous review, you could leave another review. It does help us obviously get the word out there, and make sure you're sharing the show on your social medias if you've got value out of it. If you didn't get value out of it, leave it where it lies. If you did, screenshot it, share it, tag us, and I'll make sure that I reshare your tag. And so much love to you all. Appreciate you. Hope you're kicking ass, and we'll see you next week.